Okay!
I'll edit. I'll edit it, sorry.
I was the director and the writer of our film. I was also in the leading role. So my role just sort of meant keeping the continuity the same, planning out the general story and shot types, and managing everyone else. I think it went mostly successfully, except for the noise issues with the wind, but we managed to combat that by mixing the original sound with sound that we edited in. And sometimes the lighting was a bit dark, but again, in post-production we managed to fix most of that. When we did our rehearsals, they were relatively helpful because they let us know how hard getting people in the wheelbarrow would be. It sort of prepared us a little for exactly how we needed to do things to be safe, but also not to look awful. That was the main way in which it helped. And we also got to plan out the rough layout of things. All of our pre-planning was quite helpful in the long run. The storyboard we stuck to quite, when I think about it, we stuck to it quite faithfully. Pretty much everything is more or less how it should have been. In the script we followed, everything's been followed pretty much exactly to our plan, to our rehearsals. So in that sense, I suppose it was quite useful and helpful because it was the model for what we did. And we got a better idea. We were all on the same page because we had lots of time planning and discussing ideas, and so we all knew exactly what we wanted, thanks to things like the rehearsal, and so we all knew exactly where to go. So the depth change shot, which I sort of based it on a shot from Jaws, in which the main character hears someone getting attacked, and the camera. Basically how it's done is you walk closer to the person whilst zooming out, and it makes the person's face remain in the same focus it was, but the background sort of zooms out whilst the face stays in the same focus and the same distance that it originally was. So we started doing that by having Callum in a wheelbarrow, sort of like as something that we could pull back whilst he could focus purely on adjusting the zoom to match up the speed of moving the wheelbarrow. That did not work at all because the wheelbarrow was bumpy, and really we should have seen that, as any sensible person would have. But in the end we realised it works just as well just by walking closely and zooming out. And so that shot is in the actual film. In the actual filming process, the actual shot types themselves I think worked quite well, and so did the camera movements and a lot of the technical stuff. It was the big problem was mainly the location, as we had a lot of passers-by that we had to consider, and then the time of day changing, so we had to get things done fast before it got really dark, which it did towards the end, and by then we had to sort of start lighting the scene ourselves. So the main issues came from circumstances that were sort of beyond our control, like Callum and his inability to act dead, and random passers-by that just disrupted filming for no apparent reason. But things that went well were just the general things that went well with the general filming. For the most part, the actual ideas themselves and the whole post-production process fixed most of the actual filming issues that we came into anyway, like the lighting and the sound. Most of the continuity was fairly accurate. There were couple of mistakes that we managed to get around in the post-production process again anyway. And so for the most part, I'd say things went pretty well, considering circumstances that were beyond our control, like weather change and other people. The editing process was probably the part that made everything come together, which is actually what was expected to do. It was a bit redundant. But, I mean, firstly, we managed to get the continuity of everything right so that it works as a proper functional film, which took a while because we had to make it fit under 2 minutes. And we only just managed to get that done to the pretty exact amount, with credits and everything being added in the long run. Sound editing went quite well because we mixed original sound with sounds that we added in later and sounds that we recorded ourselves, like the noise of the shovel hit. And then we just spent a lot of time adjusting the levels of these sounds so that things sounded both natural, audible, and just good. Because we didn't want, like for example, the wind noise, it's pretty constant throughout. But to just keep it at the constant level wouldn't seem right, so we had to keep changing the wind level so that it wasn't the same. It didn't sound just like a pre-recorded wind, it needed to sound natural. And it was quite complex when it came to layering the different sounds over each other, but we eventually got there. And I think it works quite well. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. And then editing it visually, most of that came in form of lighting, as we made like silhouettes more dynamic. We made things look a bit more grainy in certain shots, and then in other shots we just made colours stand out more, be more vibrant and contrasting. We also applied the letterbox effect, into every shot. And I liked that because it made it look more cinematic, and also because it frames the shots more so how I originally wanted them to be framed, and it sort of contrasts with the colours that are already there, so it makes it look, the colours, especially like oranges and stuff, look more bold. And then afterwards we just started experimenting with different types of ways we could edit it just to make it look interesting, like turning things black and white, or there's one bit where I tried to make it look a little bit like something from Sin City where it's like pure black and then pure white. It's in the shot where I dropped the person out of the wheelbarrow. I just tried lots of effects like that just to make it look interesting. They were just experiments, some of them work, some of them don't. But yeah, that's pretty much the editing process. Besides adding titles, we had to think about a type of font that we wanted for it to work, and the duration of it. That was the big thing, because we didn't want to go on too long if we only had 2 minutes. And then we added the studio logo, which Callum designed. If we were to do it again, I think my main thing would be just to try and film it all faster, because that would have helped the lighting so much. And maybe film on a day when the wind wasn't so
apparent.
Super 8. Anyway, if we were to film it again, what I would have done differently is probably just choose a different day to film it, so it was more convenient, really. And I'd maybe get a more competent person to pretend to be dead. Film more shots as well, so that we'd have more chance of getting stuff that worked with other stuff, so we didn't have to compromise at any time. So just getting more shots of this exact same, more takes of the same shot, just so that we'd have fallbacks. So I guess in the end, I'm quite proud of everything we've done. Alice has done a really good job with the editing. Jake's done a really good job with filming. The shots are all good, and he's done a really good job with all of our making of stuff. Callum's done a good job blogging and documenting everything, and no, he wasn't a good dead body, but he did a good job at by bringing props and sort of admin stuff, and like all the production designy parts, costume and that. He did a good job with that. So everyone did a good job, except for the dead body. But in all seriousness, everyone did their jobs quite well, and I'm fairly proud of the film. I wish the lighting was a bit better in places. That's mainly my fault, though. Yeah.